Welcome everybody. So in today's class, let us see the applications of GIS. We have already studied the basics of GIS, the history of GIS and the components of GIS. And in components, we have seen about the data, the hardware, software, people and what are the methods involved for performing GIS. Today let us see the applications of GIS. So before going deep into the applications, let us have a small revision of what we have studied earlier. So initially we saw that the basic information which is needed for the performance of GIS is data or information or input. Okay, so this geographical database, the collection of data is called database. So this geographic database consists of framework data as well as thematic data. So framework data is composed of frames and thematic data depends on themes. So you can see here the different layers of framework data. It includes land ownership, transportation details, the surface waters, boundaries, the geodetic controls, elevation and aerial imagery. Okay, in general this framework data consists of the boundaries, boundarical information. And when coming to thematic data, you can see here it is classified into different zones like flood zones. So this here the theme is flood. Then you can see wetlands. Okay. So each themes are represented by different colors. Then landscape, water lines, sewer users and soils. Okay. So here this particularly depends on the boundaries, the larger areas of frameworks, and here it depends on different themes. Now here this figure is this data is familiar for you. So when you take a particular geographical location, the different data sources, you have street data, building data. See, when street data is converted into a map or layer, you get this. That is a layer composed of the streets. Then building data. You are converting the building data into your maps. You are feeding your building data into maps. Right? You can see the building here. Right? Now the vegetation data. You are feeding the vegetation data into your location or your area. Then see the combination of all these three data, all these three layers is shown as integrated data. You can see here it's a combination of the street data, building data and vegetation data. Here in this figure, this right side figure shows you the vector and raster details, data details. So as we have discussed earlier, what are vector data and what is raster data. So you can see here, so vector data, it consists of the locations. So each points depending upon the coordinates, you have to mark the vector data. So raster data, it consists of different cells, a number of cells. And each cell give you a particular information. Okay. So the examples of vector data and raster data. Now See, what are the different types of raster data? So this can be, the raster data can be thematic raster or image raster. And thematic raster means it is classified into discrete data and continuous data. So you know discrete means discontinuous. Okay. Now image raster, it can be stretched data or composed data. So discrete data means it uses unique value classification. So for each data, there will be a unique value. So each value has its unique color. Example, geological map. See, when you take a geological map, you will have different geological soils, different types of soils. So for each type of soil, you can give different colors. So that is discrete data. Now continuous data can be of two types, that is classified data or stretched data. Classified data means the values are divided into classes and the classes are given in color. Stretched data, values are scaled to one of 256 colors. Now, image raster is classified into stretched data and composed data. So, in stretched data, in case of image raster data, if it is stretched, it can be applied to single bandwidth images like grayscale images, and composed data varies from 0 to 255 per bandwidth. Now, the capabilities and modulations of GIS. Nothing but the steps involved. See, we have already studied in the definition, basic definition of GIS. So, what are the functions of GIS? Or what does a GIS perform? It captures the data, manage, manipulate the data, analyze the data, model the data, and display the output of the data in the visualized form. So these are the functions of GIS. Okay, so these all depends upon the technology we use, the method we use, how we analyze, how we see the problem, what type of questions we arise, etc. And here you can see in the analysis, you can have these many types of analysis. Queries, you can ask questions, buffer, point in polygon, polygon overlay, geocoding, network applications. So we will see these all things in details in the coming classes. Then modeling, identify or predict a process, diffusion, interaction, what if scenario. So the types or the different ways how you can model a problem after you analyze it. Now we will move on to the applications of GIS. So major area of GIS applications can be grouped into 5 categories. So first one is facilitates the management. So large scale and precise maps and network analysis are mainly used for utility management. So for the management areas, that is for the utility management, we use GIS applications. Second one is we use the GIS for determining or managing the environment and natural resources. So for this we use medium or small scale maps, whereas for utility management we use large scale and precise maps. So here in order to find the natural resources, because natural resources will be deposited in a large area, so we use medium or small scale maps. And we use overlay techniques in combination with aerial photographs and satellite images are used for management of natural resources and environment impact analysis. Okay, so why do you use this overlay techniques? You have to layer the maps. Okay, so these natural resources, sometimes it will be deposited deep below the ground surface. So a particular location, if you take a particular geographical area, that may be well developed one. So that may be an agricultural land, sometimes it may be a building area, sometimes it may be an industrialized area. So you have to layer it, you have to classify the features, you have to analyze the features, and you have to layer it in terms of layers, overlay techniques, with the help of overlay techniques. Then you have to use aerial photographs and satellite images. Okay, then so with this help you can use this GIS for managing the natural resources. If the natural resources are already in use, so you can utilize these GIS maps for utilizing these resources efficiently and in a proper management. So next, third application is street network. So here we use large or medium scale maps, and we use spatial analysis for vehicle routing. So applications are for vehicle routing, locating house, street, etc. Okay, we have studied in detail the spatial analysis in the previous classes also. Now the fourth application is planning and engineering. So here we use large and medium scale maps, and engineering models are used mainly in civil engineering. Now the fifth application is, the last application is, the general application is land information system. So here we use large scale cadastre maps or land parcel maps, and spatial analysis are used for cadastre administration, taxation, etc. Now, so see, those five are the generalized category. Now a telecommunication company, how do a telecommunication company uses this GIS? So telecommunication company, it studies the terrain to find the locations for new cell phone antennae, for installation of cell phone antennae. Next, for a pipeline company, it finds the least cost path for a new pipeline. See, we know pipelines are laid for different purposes. For carrying waters, for carrying gases, for carrying other natural resources, liquid gases, etc. So when these things has to carry through pipeline and for larger distances, this will help you to find the least cost path. The next application is for a business. So how can you use this for a business purpose? So here it can evaluate the locations for new retail outlets. So for starting the new business centers by considering the nearby concentration of customers. So this can help you to consider the concentration of customers, to identify the customers, and to locate the new location for your retail outlets. Next application is how an engineering department, for an engineering department. So engineering department can monitor the condition of roads and bridges and produces planning maps for natural disasters. Now, a transit department. So how a transit department uses GIS? It produces maps of bicycle paths for commuters. Okay, so we saw some of the general applications and a few departments how they use GIS. Now we will see some examples in detail. So first example is geological mapping and interpretation. So here different types of maps are used for different purposes, and different maps can have many symbols or only one symbol depending on what one is trying to show. See, you already know, you have already studied different types of maps, right? We have geological map, thematic maps, maps showing the land uses, maps showing the rivers, etc. So we have different types of maps, and these maps are based on different purposes. So based upon the purpose and based upon the function, you can use different symbols or only one symbol in a particular map. Now these maps may use nominal data, categorical data, ordinal data, and numerical data. Okay, now some examples of categorical data is, so you categorize it. You can categorize the wells. You take a particular location. You can categorize the wells in that particular location. So that map can be showing you the details of the wells. So you may have different types of wells. So you give different symbols for different types of wells. So for getting municipal water, see, you can use the symbol. One symbol is used for industrial water, another symbol is used for agricultural purpose, another symbol is used. Okay. Then same way you can classify the road classes and lands. So if you are classifying a particular theme into different categories, that is called categorical data. Now what is ordinal data? So ordinal data are those which are grouped by rank according to some quantitative measures. Okay, so quantitative measures. So quantity. So one example is, you can take the population of a particular region. So if you take a state, that is, you can take the state of Kerala. So Kerala is classified into many states, right? And these states are classified into different districts. So now each districts, you can take the population of each districts. So there will be a variation in population. In some places the population will be from 1 lakh to 2 lakhs. So you can classify the population quantitatively and you can rank it in an ascending order or descending order depending upon your purpose. Then the data must be represented by unique values. Maps and colors must show or portray an increasing sense of value. Right? You can use unique values for maps. Or you can use colors. So when you use colors, you can use light colors to dark colors. So that will portray an increasing sense of value. Then you can use numerical data, or those that represent continuous phenomena that fall along a regularly spaced interval. Examples are like rainfall, elevations, populations, chemical concentrations, etc. So you can use numbers. Okay, you can see this map. So this, you can see different colors. Okay. So based upon the types of geological condition, or depending upon the rocks, different colors are given for different types of rocks, and it has been numbered also. So that numbered maps, we call it as normalized data map. Now this is the second type of map. So we call this as dot density map. Okay. So for example, if this is the population, see these both maps are similar maps. So this map, this is a chart map, and this is a dot density map. Okay, so dot density map, you can see the population of a particular region is represented by dots, whereas in the chart map you can see you have classified the populations. If it is less population, you have given a less solid circle, and a larger solid circle represents larger population. So this is called chart map. Okay, the second example which we can take is mining and mineral exploration. So GIS plays a very important role in the mining and exploration of minerals. So minerals, nothing but one of the natural resources. The two most important contributions of GIS in this area is its time efficiency and cost benefits. So how a GIS can improve the time efficiency in mining and mineral exploration? So GIS can combine data and databases from different sources with ease. Easily you can combine the data and databases. GIS can incorporate historical data from GSI records efficiently. See, first important thing is you can collect the data easily. Second, you can incorporate, you can add the already available historical data efficiently. Then you can link directly from modeling software to databases of results, ensuring the most recent assay information from analytical testing. You can easily incorporate this. You can easily model the data available using this software. And you can model quickly and easily in 3D the resource one is exploring from both historical and modern drill hole data stored in the database. You can model quickly. So in this way you can your GIS will help you to save time. Then second benefit is cost benefits. So because you can reduce the time, you can save money. So you need less man hours, and also you have different GIS analysis methods on quantitative and raster data, which can help you to compare the data, to compare the models, and you will be able to end up with the best model. And the old data of different types can be captured and viewed as analytical layers. See, as we have discussed earlier, in GIS, we classify a particular location based on the application into layers. So depending upon the data available, you can layer it, and you have the ability to utilize the free historical and modern data in the current projects. So using GIS in mineral exploration encourages a more efficient use of already existing data, which is cost effective. See, also you can use GIS 3D modeling, which will allow you for more targeted and cost effective drilling or operations. Also, the pipelines, electric lines, roads, ramps and other mining facilities changes frequently. So because it is changing frequently, you can fix your least path or least cost effective path or least time effective path. Okay, also the engineers and operation staffs who are involved in this mining can use GIS for planning, for facility planning applications. You can track the existing infrastructure and integrate it with mine plan, and block models can be achieved with GIS. So these all are associated with mining. So infrastructures associated with mining. So based on this infrastructure, you can develop mine plan and block models. Also, you can integrate, you can incorporate the survey data with block models. So one type of analysis which you can feed to the GIS model is by survey. So you can easily incorporate the survey data with block models. So these are the different mining software packages. See, last classes, for the next class we will be seeing different softwares, GIS softwares. So there are particular softwares or particular packages which are used for particular applications. So these are the softwares which we use for mining operations, that is Geosoft, Vulcan, MineSight, Sarpak Ranch, mining visualization systems, etc. So these software packages you can use for mining applications. So this third application, we will see it in the next class. Thank you for. We will see some more applications in the next class, and after that we will go for popular GIS softwares. Thank you.